As the frail old man lay on his deathbed, his labored breaths filled the silence of the dimly lit room. With his family gathered around him, he summoned his last strength to speak. "I've hidden it, the heirloom," he whispered, his voice trembling. Eyes widened. Whispers erupted. His fortune, thought long squandered, wasn't lost, but hidden. A treasure worth millions. A mix of greed, intrigue, and desperation filled the room as his final words escaped. "It's in the place you'd least expect." The room was heavy with silence, the kind that only comes when death is near. Gregory Hart, the patriarch of the Hart family, lay pale and frail against pristine hospital sheets. Around him stood his family, a fractured mosaic of strained relationships and concealed resentments. Eleanor, his eldest daughter, clutched his hand, her face a mask of grief and trepidation. She was the pragmatic one, the caretaker, the one who had shouldered the weight of their failing estate. Beside her sat William, sharp-eyed and restless, his fingers tapping the armrest. Across the room, Beatrice stood quietly, the youngest and most distant of the siblings, her gaze shifting between her father and the others, trying to decipher the tension in the air. Gregory's labored breaths filled the room, each one a struggle. A violent cough broke the silence. "Father, you don't need to speak," Eleanor whispered. "Save your strength." Gregory shook his head weakly. His voice, though faint, cut through the room. "No, I must tell you." His words came haltingly, each one costing him visible effort. "The heirloom. I hid it. All these years." William straightened in his chair. "What are you talking about, Father? What heirloom?" Gregory's lips curled faintly. "A treasure. Worth millions. Hidden. Where you'd least expect." His voice trailed off as his eyes fluttered shut. The rhythmic beeping of the machines grew erratic, and then, with a final exhale, Gregory Hart was gone. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the nurse's soft footsteps. When she left, chaos erupted. "Did you know about this?" William demanded, his voice cutting through the air. His eyes burned into Eleanor. "Don't be absurd," Eleanor snapped. "If I'd known about a hidden fortune, do you think I'd be drowning in debts trying to keep the estate afloat?" Beatrice, who had remained silent, finally spoke. "Maybe he left something behind. A clue, perhaps, in his study." The suggestion lingered. The siblings exchanged wary glances, suspicion flickering in their eyes. Gregory's cryptic final words had set something in motion. That night, the study became their battlefield. The grand oak door creaked open to reveal a room steeped in their father's presence. Shelves filled with leather-bound books, maps pinned to the walls, and the faint scent of pipe tobacco. It was a sanctuary none of them had dared disturb before, but now it was a treasure trove waiting to be unraveled. Eleanor entered first, her eyes scanning the bookshelves for hidden compartments. William followed, heading straight for the antique desk, his hands rifling through drawers with frantic energy. Beatrice lingered near the old grandfather clock, tracing its intricate carvings as if they might conceal a secret mechanism. The air was thick with tension. Every creak of the floorboards and rustle of paper seemed amplified. None of them spoke, each avoiding the other's gaze as they worked in their separate corners. By dawn, the study was a mess of overturned books, scattered papers, and disarrayed furniture. Yet, despite their efforts, the heirloom remained elusive. Frustration was etched onto their faces as they retreated to their respective corners of the estate. Gregory's cryptic message had transformed his death into the beginning of a hunt that would test not only their cunning, but the fragile threads of their family ties. The game was afoot, and the stakes were higher than any of them could have imagined. The morning after Gregory Hart's funeral, the siblings were at odds. Eleanor locked herself in her study, poring over estate documents. William prowled the halls, restless and agitated. Beatrice lingered in the garden, consumed by Gregory's final words. "The place you'd least expect." What did he mean? The study had yielded nothing but frustration. Gregory's cryptic words had reignited old rivalries and mistrust. They were united in their goal, but divided in their approach. By afternoon, William's impatience peaked. He stormed into Eleanor's study. "Sitting here isn't going to find anything," he snapped. Eleanor glanced up, her expression cold. "What do you suggest? Ripping apart the estate like a burglar?" "It's not theft if it's ours," William retorted. "To you, you mean," Eleanor shot back. "Don't pretend this is about legacy. You're thinking about your own gain." "And you're a saint," William countered. "You want the heirloom as much as I do." Before the argument could escalate, Beatrice appeared in the doorway. "This isn't helping," she said softly. "What if Father left more clues? Maybe the heirloom is somewhere tied to his past, not just the estate." Reluctantly, the siblings agreed. That evening, they ventured into the east wing, abandoned after their mother's death. Dust covered every surface and the air was thick with disuse. Each step echoed loudly, unease growing as they moved deeper into the forgotten part of the house. "This hasn't been touched in years," Eleanor murmured, running her fingers along a windowsill. "Not since Mother died," Beatrice said quietly. Her words hung in the air, drawing an unspoken connection between Gregory's grief and the closure of the wing. The realization dawned on them. The East Wing, tied to family pain and avoided for decades, was exactly the place they'd least expect. Their search began in earnest. Beatrice lingered in their mother's sitting room, brushing her fingers over a faded photograph of Gregory and their mother. Eleanor methodically examined the furniture, opening drawers and checking for hidden compartments. William focused on a large armoire, its ornate carvings hinting at secrets. "Here," William called suddenly. Eleanor and Beatrice rushed to his side as he swung open the armoire doors. Inside, hidden behind moth-eaten coats, was a small locked box. "It's locked. Do you have the key?" Eleanor asked. William shook his head. "No, but it must be nearby." The three searched the room again. Beatrice found a small brass key beneath a loose floorboard near the fireplace. Her heart pounded as she handed it to William, who fitted into the lock with trembling hands. The box opened with a soft click, revealing papers. Disappointment flickered across their faces as William pulled out a bundle of aged documents. But as Eleanor began reading, her expression shifted from frustration to shock. "These are deeds," she said, her voice tight with disbelief. "Properties I didn't know Father owned, and letters from someone named Miriam." "Miriam?" Beatrice asked, confused. "Who is she?" "I don't know," Eleanor replied, her brow furrowed. "But this isn't the heirloom. It's another clue." The siblings exchanged uneasy glances. The box had raised more questions than answers. Gregory's treasure hunt was far from over, and the stakes seemed to grow with every revelation. The siblings sat around the dining table, the papers they'd found spread between them. Eleanor meticulously reviewed the deeds, William leaned back with arms crossed, and Beatrice traced her finger across one of the letters, rereading Gregory's handwriting. "These properties are legitimate," Eleanor said finally. "But why didn't Father tell us? And who is Miriam?" "Maybe she's a business partner or someone he didn't want us to know about," William suggested. "Or maybe," Eleanor snapped, "she's connected to the heirloom. Everything points to something more, but this doesn't get us closer." "This letter," Beatrice interjected hesitantly, "mentions Ash Grove Creek. Didn't Mother and Father go there before we were born?" The name stirred faint memories. Their parents had mentioned Ash Grove Creek as a retreat, a place tied to stories Gregory used to tell when he wasn't consumed by work. None of the siblings had ever been there. "Why would he own property there?" Eleanor asked aloud. "Let's find out," William said, already standing. "If it's a lead, we should follow it." Within hours, they were on the road. The drive to Ash Grove Creek was tense and silent. When they arrived, the property was nestled deep in the woods, a weathered cabin surrounded by towering trees. Its faded wooden exterior suggested it hadn't been touched in decades. "Doesn't look like much," William muttered. The air smelled of damp earth, and the only sounds were the rustling leaves and their cautious footsteps. William pushed open the cabin door. It creaked loudly, revealing a sparse interior covered in layers of dust. Sunlight filtered through cracked windows, casting long shadows across the floor. "Start looking," William ordered, heading toward the fireplace. Eleanor examined an old bookshelf, while Beatrice knelt by a small chest in the corner, its ornate carvings catching her eye. "This chest looks important," Beatrice said, studying its intricate symbols. "It's locked." "Of course it is," William muttered, his frustration mounting as he searched the fireplace for hidden compartments. Eleanor found letters tucked behind the bookshelf. "These might help," she said, unfolding one. The handwriting was Gregory's, but the contents were cryptic, referencing a key to the past and Miriam's legacy. "More riddles," William grumbled. "What if this has nothing to do with the heirloom?" "Father wouldn't leave meaningless puzzles," Eleanor countered. "This is connected." Beatrice, examining the chest, noticed something about the carvings. "These match the symbols in Father's journal," she said, pressing one. A soft click echoed, and the chest's lid creaked open. Inside were a leather-bound notebook and a tarnished locket. William grabbed the notebook, flipping through its pages. "Maps, notes, and more cryptic nonsense," he muttered. Eleanor opened the locket, revealing a faded photograph of a woman none of them recognized. "This has to be Miriam," she said quietly. The siblings gathered around the notebook as William read aloud. One entry stood out: "Ashgrove holds the first piece. To find the rest, you must look beyond the surface." "What does that mean?" Beatrice asked, her voice trembling. "It means," Eleanor said grimly, "this isn't over. Ashgrove is just the beginning." The notebook from Ashgrove Creek sat open on the dining table, its pages filled with Gregory Hart's cryptic handwriting. The siblings pored over the entries, trying to make sense of the clues. References to hidden truths and Solace Point hinted at another location, but the meanings were elusive. "Solace Point," Eleanor read aloud. "Does that mean anything to either of you?" William shook his head. "No, but it sounds like another place Father hid something. Probably another dead end." Beatrice traced a phrase with her finger. "Trust only what you cannot see." What does that even mean? "Another riddle," William muttered, leaning back. "He's enjoying this from the grave." Eleanor snapped the notebook shut. "We're not going to solve it sitting here. Solace Point must be a location. Let's find it." A quick search revealed a coastal landmark with the same name. The siblings packed into the car, the tension between them unspoken but heavy. The drive to the eastern cliffs was quiet, each of them lost in their thoughts. When they arrived, they were greeted by jagged cliffs and the roaring waves below. "Let's get this over with," William said, stepping onto the narrow trail leading to the cliffs. The salty air stung their faces as they followed the notebook's vague directions. Beatrice held it close, reading Gregory's words again. "Follow the sound of the waves." The path opened onto a rocky outcrop overlooking the sea. "Look there," Beatrice said, pointing to a boulder etched with symbols. The markings matched a sketch in the notebook. William crouched, running his fingers over the grooves. "This is deliberate. It looks like an old keyhole." Beatrice hesitated before pulling the tarnished locket from her pocket. Could this be the key? She fit the locket into the indentation, and with a soft click the boulder shifted, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside was a small metal box. William grabbed it first, flipping it open. Inside were a hand-drawn map and a faded photograph. The map showed several marked locations scattered across the state. The photograph depicted Gregory standing beside a woman, presumably Miriam, in front of an unfamiliar cabin. "This isn't the heirloom," William muttered, his frustration evident. "It's just another clue." Eleanor studied the map, her brow furrowed. "These locations must lead to something. He's leaving us a trail." Beatrice held the photograph, staring at Miriam's face. Who was she? Why does she matter so much to this? Eleanor folded the map with resolve. "The next location is near Pine Hollow. That's where we go next." The siblings exchanged uneasy glances as the sun dipped lower. The jagged cliffs and crashing waves seemed to mirror the rising tension between them. This was no longer just a search for an heirloom. It was a journey unraveling Gregory's secrets, and the stakes felt higher with each step. As they made their way back to the car, the growing shadows across the cliffs felt like a warning. Gregory's treasure hunt wasn't just a game, it was a test, and they were only beginning to understand its cost. The siblings arrived at Pine Hollow under a dense canopy of trees. Sunlight barely pierced the forest, casting everything in an eerie twilight. The map from Solace Point had led them here, its markings clear but cryptic. "This place feels abandoned," Beatrice murmured, clutching the notebook. "Are we sure this is where the map leads?" Eleanor compared the map to the surroundings. "It matches perfectly. Father marked this spot for a reason." William rolled his eyes. "Let's not waste time. If there's something here, let's find it." They ventured deeper into the woods, the air thick with the scent of pine and damp earth. The clearing appeared, a circular patch of land surrounded by ancient oaks. At its center stood an old stone well, moss clinging to its surface. "That has to be it," Eleanor said, pointing to the well. William leaned over, peering inside. "It's empty, just rocks and dirt." "Wait," Beatrice said, flipping through the notebook. She stopped on a sketch of a well with an inscription. "The past lies beneath." "Beneath?" William echoed. "How are we supposed to get beneath a well?" Eleanor ran her hands along the stones. "There might be a mechanism." Beatrice found a rusted lever hidden in the moss. With effort, she pulled it. The ground rumbled, and the bottom of the well shifted, revealing a narrow staircase spiraling downward. William stared at the opening. "Are we really doing this?" "We've come this far," Eleanor said, stepping onto the stairs. Beatrice hesitated before following, and William reluctantly brought up the rear. The staircase descended into darkness. The air grew colder, carrying the scent of damp stone. At the bottom was a small chamber, its walls etched with symbols similar to those in the notebook. In the center stood a pedestal with an ornate box. "This must be it," Beatrice whispered, her heart pounding. William reached for the box. "Let's open it." "Wait," Eleanor warned, grabbing his arm. "There could be a trap." Beatrice studied the carvings, comparing them to the notebook. "There's a sequence here," she said, pointing to the symbols. Together they aligned the dials and solved the puzzle. After several tense minutes, the box clicked open. Inside was another notebook and a small velvet pouch. William emptied the pouch into his hand, revealing an antique key. "Another key. This is insane." Eleanor picked up the notebook, scanning its pages. "This is different. It's a log of Father's travels, and a final location." Beatrice stared at the key. "Whatever this unlocks must be the end of the trail." Eleanor nodded. "It's pointing to the Hart family mausoleum." The siblings exchanged uneasy glances. The mausoleum had always been a place of unease, a symbol of their family's legacy and secrets. As they climbed back up the staircase, the weight of Gregory's treasure hunt pressed heavily on them. The heirloom, if it existed, seemed closer than ever, but so did the truth. The drive to the Hart family mausoleum was silent. The siblings were lost in thought, the antique key from Pine Hollow sitting heavily in Eleanor's lap. The mausoleum, an imposing structure on the estate's edge, loomed in their minds. None of them had been inside since Gregory had it built, a project he never explained. "Do you think this is the end?" Beatrice asked softly. "It better be," William muttered. I'm tired of chasing clues." Eleanor tightened her grip on the wheel. "Father wanted us to find this. There's a reason." As the mausoleum came into view, its weathered stone facade seemed to rise out of the withered trees, casting long shadows in the fading light. Stepping out of the car, they stared at the massive iron doors. "Why did he care so much about this place?" Beatrice asked. "Maybe we're about to find out," Eleanor replied, fitting the key into the lock. The heavy doors groaned open, revealing a cold, stale interior. Marble tombs lined the walls, and at the center was Gregory's sarcophagus, its surface carved with intricate symbols. William's voice echoed. "This is it, his grave." Eleanor stepped closer, her eyes on an inscription on the lid. "To preserve the past is to secure the future." Beatrice flipped through the notebook. "This phrase matches one in Father's notes. And these symbols, they're part of a sequence." "It's another puzzle," Eleanor said with a sigh. Working together, they pressed the symbols in the correct order. The sarcophagus shifted, revealing a hidden compartment. William reached inside and pulled out a small chest, setting it on the ground. Eleanor opened it carefully. Inside were documents, photographs, and a letter addressed to the siblings. Beatrice unfolded the letter, her hands trembling as she read aloud. "My dear children, if you've come this far, you've proven what I always hoped, that you are stronger together than apart. The heirloom you seek is not gold or jewels, but a legacy. These papers hold the truth of our family's past and the sacrifices made to secure your future. This was never about wealth. It's about understanding where you come from and what you can achieve together. Preserve this knowledge and you will secure not just the family's legacy, but your own. Love, Father." The room fell silent. William sifted through the documents, uncovering deeds, journals, and records of Gregory's efforts to save the family from financial ruin decades earlier. Among them was a small, folded map. "There's more?" Beatrice asked, her voice shaking. Eleanor studied the map. "This might be the final step." William's frustration boiled over. "Another mystery? This is ridiculous." "No," Eleanor said firmly. "Father didn't want us to inherit blindly. He wanted us to earn it." The siblings exchanged uneasy glances, Gregory's intent finally becoming clear. As they stepped into the cool night air, the mausoleum's shadow seemed to stretch further. The next step awaited, but for the first time, they wondered if Gregory's true lesson wasn't about wealth, but unity. The siblings gathered around the map Gregory had left, its lines leading to Blackridge, a forgotten mining town deep in the woods. A single red X marked the location, and the weight of their journey settled over them as they studied it. "Do you think this is it?" Beatrice asked softly. "It has to be," Eleanor replied, folding the map. "We leave at dawn." The drive to Blackridge was quiet, the tension in the car unspoken but palpable. The road narrowed as they entered the woods, the trees looming taller and the light fading. When they reached a rusted gate, Eleanor tried the key from Pine Hollow. It clicked open and they drove through, stopping at a clearing dominated by a crumbling stone building. "This is it," Eleanor said as they stepped out of the car. The building was silent, its door hanging ajar. Eleanor led the way, flashlight in hand. Inside, the air was cold and damp, the walls lined with mildew. At the center of the room was an iron trap door, its edges carved with familiar symbols. "It's locked," Eleanor said, running her hands over the engravings. Beatrice opened Gregory's notebook, flipping to a page that referenced the symbols. "There's a sequence here." Working together, they aligned the symbols in the correct order. The mechanism clicked, and the trap door creaked open, revealing a ladder descending into darkness. "Why is everything underground?" William muttered, but followed as Eleanor climbed down. The ladder led to a narrow tunnel, the air colder with each step. Finally, the tunnel opened into a chamber. In its center was a pedestal holding a large wooden chest, its carvings intricate and deliberate. "This has to be it," Beatrice whispered, her voice trembling. Eleanor scanned the room before approaching the chest. Satisfied, she lifted the lid. Inside were ornate keys, a thick journal, and a sealed envelope. William grabbed the journal, flipping through its pages. "This is everything. Father's investments, plans, and notes," he said, his voice edged with disbelief. Eleanor unfolded the letter inside the envelope. Gregory's handwriting was clear and deliberate. "My children, if you found this, you've reached the end of my journey. The heirloom is not a single treasure, but the culmination of everything I've left behind. The keys will unlock the true inheritance, our family's holdings and the means to preserve them. Use them wisely, together. With love, Father." Beatrice stared at the keys. "So, this was his plan all along, to make us work for it?" "Yes," Eleanor said, her voice steady, "and to make us stronger for it." William sighed, placing the journal back in the chest. "I guess this means we're stuck with each other." For the first time, the siblings exchanged knowing smiles. Gregory's legacy wasn't just about wealth, it was about trust, unity, and the future they would now build together. The siblings returned to the estate with the contents of the chest in tow. Eleanor placed the journal and Gregory's letter on the study desk. The weight of what they had uncovered at Blackridge lingered in the air, unspoken. Beatrice stood near the fireplace, staring into the flickering flames. "Do you think he planned all of this? Every step?" "Without question," Eleanor replied. "Father was meticulous. He wouldn't leave anything to chance." William dropped into a chair. "I'm not sure if I'm impressed or furious." Eleanor opened the journal, flipping through its pages. He mapped everything out here, his investments, his decisions, his connections. "But why make it so complicated?" Beatrice asked. "Why not just tell us?" "Because he didn't want us to take it for granted," Eleanor said. "He wanted us to understand what it took to build this." William picked up the keys from the desk. "And these? What do they unlock?" Eleanor pointed to a note in the journal. "There's a vault beneath the estate. It was built to protect our family's most important assets." "A vault?" Beatrice repeated. "We've lived here our whole lives and never knew about it." "Father kept it hidden," Eleanor said. "But now we need to find it." Their search began in earnest. They combed through the study, the library, and even the wine cellar, but nothing seemed to match Gregory's descriptions. "It has to be somewhere symbolic," Beatrice said, scanning the journal again. Eleanor froze, her eyes narrowing. "The drawing room." "Why there?" William asked. "Father always said it was the heart of the house," Eleanor replied, heading there without hesitation. In the drawing room, Eleanor approached the fireplace, her fingers brushing over the mantel. "There's an engraving here," she said. Beatrice joined her, tracing the faint outline of a symbol. "It matches the notebook." Eleanor pressed the symbol, and with a soft click, a hidden panel slid open beside the fireplace. Behind it was a staircase descending into darkness. "Underground, again," William muttered, but followed Eleanor and Beatrice. The staircase led to a vaulted chamber. At its center was a massive iron door adorned with intricate carvings. The keys fit perfectly, and with a creak, the door swung open. Inside, rows of shelves held documents, artifacts, and ledgers. At the center was a pedestal with a leather-bound book. Eleanor opened it, her hands trembling slightly. The pages detailed the Hart family's legacy, land holdings, partnerships, and Gregory's handwritten notes. "This isn't just a vault," Beatrice said softly. "It's an archive." William picked up a ledger, flipping through its pages. "This is everything, every piece of our family's history." Eleanor placed the book back on the pedestal, her expression somber. "Father wanted us to protect this, to build on it. It's our responsibility now." The siblings stood in silence, the enormity of their discovery settling over them. Gregory's journey had ended, but theirs was only beginning. The days after discovering the Hart family vault were a whirlwind. Eleanor, William, and Beatrice combed through its contents, piecing together Gregory's life and the empire he built. The journal hinted at one final location, a site Gregory called the cornerstone. "It's the last piece of the puzzle," Eleanor said, studying the map. "We need to find it to understand everything." "Do we, though?" William asked. "We already have what we need." "We have to finish this," Beatrice said. "If Father thought it was important, it must be." The map led them to an overgrown plot on the edge of the estate, a place they barely remembered. The trees were dense, their branches weaving into a canopy that blocked out the light. The air was damp, heavy with the scent of moss and decay. "This doesn't look promising," William muttered as they reached a clearing. "It matches the map," Eleanor said. "There's something here." They searched, pulling away vines and debris, until Beatrice uncovered a partially buried stone marker. The symbols carved into it matched those in the vault. "There's an engraving," Beatrice said, brushing off dirt. "The cornerstone binds the past to the present." "What does that mean?" William asked. Eleanor knelt beside the marker. "It's not just a marker, it's a lid." Together, they pried it open, revealing a narrow passage beneath. A rush of cold air greeted them, and William groaned. "More stairs." They descended carefully, entering a small chamber. The room was bare except for a single pedestal holding an ornate box, its carvings more intricate than anything they had seen before. "This is it," Beatrice whispered. Eleanor approached the box and lifted the lid. Inside was a single gold-plated key. "A key?" William said, incredulous. "After all this?" Eleanor studied it. "It's tied to the vault. Look at the engravings." Beatrice flipped through the journal. "The key to the cornerstone unlocks the truth of the Hart legacy," she read. They returned to the vault, where the key fit perfectly into a hidden compartment. The lock clicked, revealing a second chamber. Inside were more ledgers, photographs, and a sealed envelope. Eleanor opened the letter, her hands steady. "My dear children, if you've reached this point, you now hold the cornerstone of our family's legacy. It is not wealth or power, it is knowledge. The truth of who we are and what we've endured is our greatest inheritance. Use it wisely, and never forget the value of trust, unity, and perseverance. With love, Father." William set the letter down, his expression softer than usual. "He didn't just leave us a fortune, he left us a challenge." Beatrice nodded. "And he made sure we faced it together." Eleanor placed the letter back in the envelope, her voice firm. "We owe it to him, and to ourselves, to honor that legacy." Standing in the vault, the weight of Gregory's lesson settled over them. The journey had tested them, but it had also brought them closer. The Hart legacy was now theirs to protect, and they were ready to embrace it. The days following the cornerstone's revelation were transformative. The Hart siblings, once fractured by misunderstandings, now worked together to safeguard Gregory's legacy. The vault's contents and his final letter laid out the family's holdings, but the true challenge was clear: managing and protecting it for future generations. Eleanor took charge of cataloging the vault's items. Every deed, journal, and artifact was meticulously preserved. "This isn't just history," she said one evening. "It's a roadmap for what we can achieve." Beatrice immersed herself in Gregory's personal writings, uncovering the emotional struggles he endured to secure their future. "He wasn't just protecting a legacy," she said softly. "He was protecting us." William, initially reluctant, delved into the financial ledgers. Though his skepticism lingered, he began to grasp the bigger picture. "It's not just money," he admitted one night. "It's responsibility." Their collaboration wasn't without challenges. disagreements over priorities surfaced, doubts lingered, and the weight of Gregory's expectations pressed on them. Yet, with every obstacle, their bond grew stronger. One evening, Eleanor called a meeting in the drawing room. The atmosphere was tense but determined. "We've come a long way," she began, "but we're not finished. Father's journey wasn't just about the past. He wanted us to build a future, together." Beatrice nodded. "He believed in us when we didn't believe in each other." "And now," Eleanor said, glancing at William, "we need to decide what comes next." William leaned back, a rare smile on his face. "For the first time, I get it. It wasn't about the heirloom. It was about us." The siblings spent the night planning. They agreed to establish a foundation in Gregory's name, dedicated to preserving history and supporting their community. The vault, once a symbol of secrets, became a beacon of hope. Months passed, and the Hart estate transformed. Eleanor spearheaded restoration projects for neglected properties. Beatrice led initiatives to document and share the family's history. William revitalized the local economy through financial ventures. On the anniversary of Gregory's passing, the siblings gathered in the drawing room. The fire crackled softly and the air was filled with peace. Eleanor raised a glass. "To Father," she said, "and to the legacy he entrusted to us." "To family," Beatrice added warmly. William smirked but lifted his glass. "To the Hart Empire." They laughed, the moment a testament to how far they had come. Gregory's journey had tested them, but it had also brought them together. The Hart legacy, once fragmented, now stood as a testament to unity, resilience, and hope for the future. As the fire crackled late into the night, the siblings knew their journey wasn't truly over. They were no longer just heirs. They were stewards of a legacy, building a future that honored Gregory's vision and reflected their own.